I just texted her, but she hasn't answered.
604 number is not.
Can't be 604. 644. That's probably our home phone. Okay. All right. Okay, 7. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the South Windsor Town Council for September 7th to order. Just a few housekeeping issues. Please wear a mask at all times during the meeting. And as you come in, there's a contact tracing form on the back table in the back of the room. Please complete those. Those are for your safety and your protection. So please complete the contact tracing form and wear masks at all times. Okay, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to start this evening by asking for a moment of silence. Okay. You can do it there? Okay, we'll start with a roll call. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Present. Here.
Present.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Reed. I'd like to start this evening with a moment of silence in memory of State Police Sergeant Mole, who lost his life serving the public, serving his community. A tragic loss for his family. Thank you. Next comments, I'd like to ask Deputy Mayor Pendleton to share some words with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 9/11 is soon approaching. It's been many, many years since we were attacked here on American soil. I'd like to make an acknowledgement of the brave men and women and the citizens that went to work that day, and for the firefighters and the police officers that did their job so bravely and courageously without being asked to. So I'd like for us to take a moment of silence for those of 9/11, please. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge and recognize, I'm sorry, I have to stand for this, please forgive me, for my fellow veterans that lost their life in Afghanistan during a humanitarian mission. And I'd like to pay respect to their families because I myself have suffered with that family loss, with my brother being killed in Vietnam. And I know what my family went through. And being a veteran and my husband also a veteran, I know how close it is to my heart. And I know there's other veterans sitting in the audience with us this evening, Mr. Dillon. And I'd just like to say and honor those brave men and women that sacrificed their lives by signing on the dotted line, but they've also sacrificed their life in a humanitarian mission. And if we could please honor them and their families with a moment of silence.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll go on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. Councilor King.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sure this mic is on. I move that we adopt the agenda as sent out to us.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any changes to the agenda? If not, we'll go on to voting. All those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. Thank you. We'll move to item 6, our communications and reports from the town manager. Mr. Maniscalco.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of COVID numbers for today, we have 1,917 total cases of coronavirus in the town. 1,813 are past the time of quarantine. We have 53 residents who have passed away, which leaves us a total of 51 people currently in the community with coronavirus. Over the last couple of weeks, we've spent quite a bit of time involved, both myself and the mayor have had quite a bit of time involved talking with a regional consortium of different towns, talking about mask mandates and the requirements of what that might look like. As a result, I think as everybody understands here today, the town did move forward with a mask mandate. I believe it was approximately 2 weeks ago. As was said when issuing that mandate, we really have two goals, which are to keep the numbers low enough to allow kids to go to school in person and to ensure that businesses are not closed due to capacity limits or other imposed requirements. Internally, in terms of in-town buildings, masks are required, and that is in all town buildings. And then we are also currently in the event of a large gathering on town property. We will also be requiring town masks to avoid some type of a super spreader event. All that being said, all town offices are remaining open to the public at this time, and we are continuing to provide all the services to the town that they've come to enjoy and require. I also wanted to talk about Hurricane Henry, which hit the town on 8/21, with the largest impact being the significant amount of rainfall, which was 5 inches or more. This was coupled with the significant amounts of rainfall of 5.5 inches 2 days earlier. As a result, the town experienced mostly flooding issues. The state declared state of emergency, and evaluations are currently being done for FEMA to determine if there was a large enough impact in terms of cost to the town to warrant FEMA reimbursement. Also, moving on in terms of economic development, I had the opportunity to provide a tour to the Metro Hartford Alliance. That's kind of a regional economic development agency. We took, I believe, 5 individuals throughout the town, and we're able to show them a number of locations within town that were really focusing on redevelopment. And very productive conversation, very good conversation, and I think hopefully it should bear out some fruit. They had a couple of leads that they were thinking about possibly for some existing buildings within town. Just in terms of Costco, I think if anybody's driven past there, there's been a lot of activity. My office, as well as a number of the other offices within the town, have been meeting with representatives from Costco. I believe they've been flying out individuals from the state of Washington on a weekly basis to actually manage and keep that project moving along. They have an estimated opening date of November 11th, and they are planning to hit that date due to the fact that they've already printed the signs. So they're working away on that. Also, I've had a number of meetings with 9 Tribe Foods. That's the company that bought Carla's Pasta after Carla's Pasta went through bankruptcy. We're in the process of going through the tax abatement that was put in place for Carla's Pasta does have a transfer clause within it, so it can transfer over to a new entity that buys out the organization. So we've been working on doing that process, as well as having some discussions about possible expansions in the future. So that could be very good. I think the best news out of that whole conversation to this date, though, has been the idea that 9 Tribe Foods is not planning any layoffs. They're not planning on downsizing or changing their operations in a negative impact to the community. They're actually planning on keeping it all the same and possibly even increasing it. Also wanted to let the council know that I've been asked to serve on the Crumbling Foundation's insurance captive. I've turned in all my paperwork, which has to be approved by the state, and I've been asked to serve as a board member on the insurance captive. My hope is that it'll gain some additional attention for South Windsor residents who are suffering through crumbling foundations and the challenges associated with that. We've already had some conversations with residents after getting appointed and as a result of the storm, and it's already been somewhat beneficial to have those connections and communications. Also, just wanted to bring to the attention of the council the idea of closed captioning and sign language for public meetings. I've talked with a couple council members about this idea. We did do some research into the sign language portion of that and what that might look like. After doing some costing out and conversation with entities, it came out to about $1,000 per meeting. We are looking into additional closed caption options. We did, most computers and televisions do offer that option if you were watching the meeting at home. That said, that closed captioning is usually not always that accurate. We were trying to look into getting some additional costs for those services. I know that the town did look at it in the past. Unfortunately, those services were not sought at that time due to the extensive price of it. We did reach out today to see if we could get some additional information that would be a little more updated, but I would imagine it's probably still in the same realm. A couple items that I don't have in my written report for all of you. First of all, a planning and zoning item related to the state legislature. Accessory apartments will become legal starting January 1st. Our Planning and Zoning Commission is currently exploring the possibility of opting out of that law, which they can do if a supermajority of the Planning and Zoning Board votes in favor of it, as well as the Town Council votes in favor of it with a supermajority. We currently already have accessory apartments are allowed through a special exception, and we have regulations around that. But the new law would just flat out make it legal across the board. So there's two sides of it. I think that it may warrant some additional looking into, but it's something to put on your radar that planning and zoning is looking at that could potentially come to all of you in the future. In terms of Laurel Street and the speeding on Laurel Street that the residents have been bringing forward to us, we brought that issue forward to the traffic committee. They've taken a look at it. They did say that we could put up 2 signs that are going to be lighted, and they will flash the speed of individuals that are going down the road. Those signs have been ordered. We are currently 6 to 7 weeks out from getting them on board here and then moving it forward for implementation. And then lastly, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the council the fact that we completed our second tax sale in the time that I've been here. In total, we brought in $1.1 million in revenue for the town that was not being collected at that time. And that is all I have to report tonight, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Any questions for the town manager? Councilor Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, on the Hurricane Henry FEMA information, have we received the criteria yet for that, or are we still waiting for that?
So right now what we've had is the State Department of Emergency Management has requested towns to input a associated cost. So what it costs each town in terms of damage, and then if those damage amounts equal a certain dollar amount, then FEMA will start to reimburse the state and municipalities for the cost that we experienced. Some of the earlier storms that we had, we actually missed that requirement.
Yeah, that was outside of the window.
Yeah, I think it was about $40 million, something like that, and the state fell short by about 10 or 15 million. So they are asking on a regular basis, and staff are currently inputting that into the state portal that they have for doing that.
So FEMA, at this point in time, you're believing that 100% of the cost, if it meets that threshold, would be reimbursed through FEMA?
So usually it's 75%.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because it's usually 75.
Correct.
Okay, and are we, any of the work, not only the work that the town did, but also the fire department as well, can we also, will we be able to include the time and the energy and the use of the equipment and depreciation and all that for?
Correct. So all any hours that the fire department puts in, there's a rate for any of their trucks that roll, there's a rate for each of the individual firefighters and any of the time that they do. any of the time for our public works staff, the trucks that they use, parks and rec staff, administrative staff, all of it. There's time codes that are all put in.
And
then
we've
those
recorded
dollar-
all of that, as we were in it, we automatically record all that, and that's with that certain account.
Yes,
so
we've
that
been
it's
recording.
pre-capture.
Yeah, so we've been recording all that throughout those types of incidents. And then we do report that up through the system, so that way it gets loaded into FEMA, and then,
I know it's a crazy question, but any idea when reimbursement may, if in fact we meet that threshold, reimbursement may commence? 6 months, maybe?
probably even longer, to be honest.
Okay, for this one, because there's also
They're all-
Louisiana, and, yeah.
Well, I mean, so unfortunately, they're taking longer and longer and longer to actually start seeing those sorts of dollars come out. I think we heard early on in the pandemic, FEMA would be reimbursing for certain amounts of the pandemic costs. We've just barely gotten to the point where, I think it was maybe a few weeks ago, we started hearing like, we think you're gonna get about. So.
Okay. And then, when that money does in fact come in, is your intent to put it back into put it into the fund balance?
Yeah, well, usually what happens is it comes in and then it goes into the general fund, into the fund balance.
I know, it's usually general fund in my language, but I guess it's fund balance.
Fund balance, yeah.
At the local level.
Correct.
And would any of the amount that was expended by the fire department be able to go back to them?
If they have an,
Is that something we could think about?
sure, we would have to talk to the chief. I don't know if they had some type of extenuating expenses, but we certainly would talk to them
Okay,
about that.
great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Snyder. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I have a couple of questions regarding the Metro Hartford Alliance Town. That tour of facilities, was that facilities that they are targeting or they have viewed, or things that we are recommending to them?
No, so they came and they toured our community, and we reached out to them to come and do that. That was an effort on our part. They're not reaching out and going to each individual one. This was
Yep.
on our part to try to get them here to see what we could do to elicit some additional business.
All right, thank you. And the other question has to do with the Crumbling Foundation with the captive insurance. So the captive insurance, it was out of money a year and a half ago. So it has already been funded.
Yes, I believe they actually got some additional funding recently. I want to say in the tune of like $40 million.
Okay, so congratulations on getting to be a member of that board.
We'll find out, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilor Lopez. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I noticed on page 22 that it's noted that the start to the pickleball hockey deck court has been started, and I'm very excited to see that. It's one of our projects. Just wondering if you could get an update on where that is. Is it being done in phases? Do we have a completion date?
I don't know that offhand, but I will certainly get you some more information.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Evans. Deputy Mayor Pendleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Maniscalco, excuse me, I'd just like to say thank you to the Public Works, the Police Department, and the Fire Department for all that they did for the storms that we had with Ida and Henri, and the massive amount of flooding we had in Folks Basement and Mill on the River, and road closures and trees and all of that. And I'd just like to acknowledge them and thank them for all their hard work and effort. Thank
They
you.
have done a great job.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions, any other questions for Mr. Maniscalco? All right, if not, we'll go on to item 7, public input. Yeah, I think, let me just read the statement. We have a list on the podium for people who have signed in. Yeah, it's on the podium. So let me just read these comments about public input. When recognized, please approach the lectern, give your name and address, and during your conversation, please avoid any personalities or impugning of improper motive to any person at this meeting. The speaker shall limit their time to 5 minutes. This limit may not be exceeded except when invoked by any member of the council with the consent of a majority of the council present. This is not a discussion period, so town council members will not respond to any public comments or questions. So we'll start. Last name is Baganski. Sorry, I hope I got that right. All right. Oh, yeah.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Is that better? Okay.
All right. Got to get pretty close to it, yeah.
I'm sorry, say that
No,
again?
keep your mask on, but just get close to it, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm Despina Bagansky. I live on 133 Cliffwood Drive. First, let me start with under no circumstances am I making light of the pandemic and how it impacted individuals in our community. We have to all admit that we've come a long way in the last year compared to this at this time. On August 19th, I contacted the town manager to discuss the upcoming mask mandate. I was shocked to hear this was even in consideration in a town with over 70% at that time vaccination rate. As of Friday, we're at almost 72%. That actually meets the CDC guidelines for herd immunity. How is it that as a town, we're allowing officials who are not qualified to make medical-based decisions on behalf of the community? The town manager said this was done out of assumption that numbers will go up, just like last fall. Let me remind you that last fall, we didn't have a vaccination for our residents to choose to have. As of August 19th, when I spoke to the town manager, South Windsor had 53 cases, not deaths, out of 26,000 residents currently. We've not had any deaths in South Windsor due to COVID since March. I don't know about anyone else, but that sounds pretty freaking good to me. When I asked where we need to get for the town to give us back the freedom to choose whether or not to mask up, he stated 0 cases. 0 cases? According to every source, regardless of where you get your news, along with the CDC, that's never going to be the case. COVID is not going to disappear. Like a cold, like a flu, there's always going to be a breakthrough case. We were first told to wear masks to help our hospitals who are having issues with capacity. Johns Hopkins has been doing a weekly hospitalization trend. Results recently posted. August 30th to September 5th, 2021, for the entire state of Connecticut, total ICU beds, 1,052. 467 of those beds are unoccupied. 101 are occupied due to COVID. 480 for non-COVID illnesses. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is a human rights issue. You, the people, I apologize, you, the people of the town council, are not qualified to make these types of decisions that will affect private businesses or residences. From the beginning, we were told to trust the science. Based on the statistics from the CDC, we're doing exceptionally well. We have to get off our power trip and end the mask mandate in South Windsor. And if you want to say this is for health, I look forward to hearing about your enthusiastic plans to encourage our residents to start to support local farms, eat healthy, and exercise. You know, heart disease is the #1 killer, and we may want to keep our community healthy. Stop making this a political issue, stop making this a control issue, and give the residents of South Windsor the freedom they're entitled to make the best decisions for themselves and their families while being respectful to others. Thank you.
All right, next speaker, Corinne Bordeaux.
Hello, my name is Corinne. I live at 373 Pleasant Valley. My husband and I own multiple businesses, and this mask mandate was implemented with the intention to prevent businesses from having to close again. I think we can all agree that that is a really good intention. However, good intentions are not good enough. What I'd like everyone to recognize, especially my fellow business owners, is that the virus did not close businesses the first time around. The government did that. And once again, the Delta variant is not the reason why there are mask mandates hurting businesses in town. The town manager and the town council are to blame for that. Mask mandates hurt small businesses. And if you don't believe me, then I'd suggest you go ask one of the 14 gym owners in town if business was better before the mask mandates or now with the mask mandates. And then go speak to all the restaurant owners and ask them how their business is doing with these new mandates. People are going to different towns like Ellington that don't have mandates so that they can do their dining and shopping like the respected adults that they are, for making their own decisions. Whether you agree that it's right or not, that they are boycotting South Windsor for those things, it doesn't matter. It's happening. The town manager's intentions may be good, but that does not mean these actions are right. It also doesn't mean that he has the authority to do these mandates in the first place on private businesses. Now, multiple town council members, along with the town health director, Heather Otis, told me that the town manager derived his authority from Executive Order 13A. I read the 13A, and it states that any business or municipal government or agency may require the universal use of masks in settings under their ownership or control. Private businesses are not under municipal ownership or control. By definition, they are not. When I asked for additional clarification on this matter, none of you were able to give me an answer. No one can cite where this true authority comes from, and it's severely disappointing. We need clarification. We need transparency, and we're not getting it. You're trying to protect people from getting sick from COVID, and that, once again, is a great intention. Nobody wants anyone to get sick, but you're doing so by restricting everyone for the small amount of people in town that actually are getting sick. And you're doing so at the expense of local businesses. What you're saying is these people are more important than those people and their livelihoods. And I'm here to say stop. Stop the mandates. Stop the overreach into private businesses. Stop this abuse of power that you can't even cite where it comes from in the guise of public health. And my fellow business owners, stand up. Do not let our government continue harming your businesses, because we won't allow it. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Kathy Kerrigan.
Kathy Kerrigan, 1838 Main Street. I'm not here to talk about masks. I'm here to talk about a house. Dear Mr. Mayor and councilors, I'm a 45-year resident of South Windsor, living in the Main Street Historic District for most of that time. Our home is within eyesight and hearing of two distribution centers constructed in 2015 on the old Schweier property, located at 59 Sullivan Avenue. You all know that house, that property at 59 Sullivan Avenue? Okay, good. This is also the address of the Schweier homestead, also known as the Increased Clap House, built in 1808, listed on the State Registry of Historic Places, and lived in by members of the Schweier family until 2015. I come before you tonight with three topics of concern, and all three have to do with the Schweier house. The first is a fuel station project has been proposed for the tract of land immediately behind the house. The second one is concerns for the future of this historically significant home. And a third is a new Welcome to South Windsor gateway being designed for land immediately opposite the Schweier house. So, fuel station project first. This gas station would be located immediately south of the Schweier house property, facing Route 5 and the historic district. Highlights: a new 24-hour diesel gas station for trucks, a deli sandwich convenience shop, and an ice cream parlor located inside the Schweier house. On June 11th, I sent a letter to Mr. Michael Frisbee of Monroe Noble Gas, Inc., outlining worries I share with my neighbors concerning these plans. I wrote this about the historic district. We're a tiny community within a larger town, with properties owned by people dedicated to preserving their homes in perpetuity for the long-term benefit of South Windsor residents, the state of Connecticut, and an even broader national historical community. We do that at significant personal and monetary sacrifice, and sadly, without any direct help from the town or the state. In the past 10 years, my neighbors and I have seen East Windsor Hill buffeted by a significant increase in truck volume due to the construction of multiple distribution centers on or just off of Sullivan Avenue. The result has been both a dramatic 24/7 increase in the number of trucks on the two roads closest to our neighborhood, and a stunning increase in the noise levels generated by those trucks. We are understandably gun shy. A diesel truck fueling station with its attendant activity, noise, and lighting would be intolerable. And perhaps most importantly, we believe that the introduction of any kind of a fuel station in the vicinity of the historic district is simply unacceptable. This project would impact an already congested intersection, which has seen a dramatic increase in accidents over the past few years. In addition, it would require a change in zoning from industrial to commercial, when in fact there are several commercially zoned properties along Route 5 that would much better accommodate a fuel station and offer multi-direction entries and exits. Second topic, the future of the Schweier House. With doors and windows boarded up and a yard overgrown, it doesn't look like much today, but underneath, it's a 2-story brick residence in the Federal style with 2 tall brick chimneys located at each gable end. The original owner was a blacksmith who made irons for the town jail, then located at the town farm on Ferry Lane. This was an important home in the community and an important link between Main Street and Wapping residents, with more than 113 years of stories to tell. The Schweier House and its property were given to the town by the developer of the distribution centers in 2015. It was placed in a 501c3, for which a new board of directors has just been named. This new board will be charged with the restoration, care, and future use of the house. It will bring together the Historic District Commission and the State Historic Preservation Office to obtain funding for needed restoration work, including the possible relocation of the house further back on its property. Lastly, the gateway. A new gateway is being proposed on a small tract of land directly opposite the Schweier House on Sullivan Avenue. Simple in design, it would welcome visitors to South Windsor with visual references to our rich history and landscaping designed to reflect and complement a restored Schweier House. It will offer an impressive welcome, one fitting the historic district it looks back on. The gateway design, with cost estimates and commitments for donations and in-kind services, will be presented to the Town Council for approval. So in conclusion, thank you for your time, thank you for your service. To South Windsor, the town is worth it. And thank you for considering the first option, a no to the new fuel station for trucks next door to the historic Schweier home and alarmingly close to a priceless collection of historic structures in the town's historic district. And a yes in support of the new board guiding the restoration and future use of the Schweier House, and a yes to a new gateway in South Windsor.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah, thank you. All right, our next speaker is Tom Dillon.
Tom Dillon, 34 Barber Hill Road. Just to speak a little bit to masks. From Google, the definition of PPE is personal protective equipment designed to protect the wearer's body from injury or infection. The hazards addressed can be physical, electrical, heat, chemicals, etc. Not once in 45 years of wearing PPE as a firefighter did I wear PPE for the victim I may have been pulling out of a burning building. It was always for me. This mask does nothing. Unless you're in an N95 mask that has been fitted to you by a medical provider, this mask, which has resided in my truck for 1.5 years, unwashed, that I continue to wear, does absolutely nothing for anyone's health, and it certainly doesn't do anything for mine. Second point, I'm here to talk about town spending in regards to, lo and behold, fire trucks. 1st of December, I sent the council a letter at their homes, a fairly articulate letter, I thought, 2.5 pages, that we did not need a Company 6 vehicle that you were going to spend $250,000 on. Not one counselor called me to ask me my position, why I thought it was a bad expense. And I also pointed out we spend way too much for fire trucks. Case in point, engine 3, 4, 6, and 8 have been replaced. I do know the cost of engine 6, which is $860,000. Manchester 8th District, within the last year and a half, bought an engine, NFPA 1901 certified, for $450,000. Middletown Fire, $506,000. Tolland has bought a rescue pumper combination, which is in excess of an engine, to do rescue work for $750,000. Warwick, Rhode Island, just went into a $6 million purchase agreement because they ignored their fire apparatus for so long. They're spending $837,000 for an engine. Ellington has a proposed, I believe it's proposed, I don't think it's through yet, a rescue pumper for $750,000. If we had stayed within those tracks, we would have saved $1.35 million on fire apparatus. Engine 8 is coming up for replacement. Engine 8 is like my 2012 Jeep that's in my garage. It has 37,000 miles on it. Why would I replace my 2012 Jeep and buy a new one when I have one that's perfectly functional in the bay? That's what engine 8 is going to be. I believe NFPA 1912 allows you to do a fire engine refurbishment if there's anything that is small in particular wrong with engine 8. This town does not have a funding problem. We have a spending problem. If that's going on in the fire department, that includes $1.3 million just on fire trucks. That's $1 million in the police department, $1 or $2 million in the school system. If you have nothing to hide, I want a forensic audit and consultation about how we could run this town more efficiently, but cheaper. And if you're not afraid, you'll do it. I suggest to the taxpayers of South Windsor, the elections are coming up in November. Throw these guys out and get people in there that will listen to you and spend your tax dollar wisely. I'm offended. I spend $8 grand a year in this town between property of my home and my vehicles. I'm getting raped, and the least I can do is come here and say something about it. You guys need to do better, but according to this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other experts that know better when it comes to the cost of fire apparatus, but according to the mayor, our expert is number 1.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call for a 15-minute recess, and I'd like to see the council members in the caucus room. 15-minute recess. All right, the meeting is back in session, and we're at Speaker 5, Virginia McCrow.
Good evening. I am going to refer to a lot of what Mrs. Kerrigan talked about the Historic District. As chair of the Historic District Commission for 20 years, I was delighted to hear last year that Money Magazine, in naming South Windsor as number 12 in its list of the 100 best places to live in America, cited historic Main Street as one of the main attractions. It wasn't until recently that I actually looked up the article and was surprised to find that the mention of Main Street was the lead paragraph and took up at least a third of the brief article, identifying the street's value to the town for a national readership. I'd like to read that paragraph for those of you who may have missed it. Founded in the 1650s beside the picturesque Connecticut River, the longest in New England, this Hartford suburb boasts two separate districts on the National Register of Historic Places. These neighborhoods turn the north-south Main Street into a parade of Georgian and Greek Revival style buildings that will make you feel like a character in a period movie. I'm not sure about that, but lots of people enjoy Main Street on bicycle or on foot. The article continues to list other quality of life amenities in town. Our historic Main Street is something to celebrate and is often compared to Deerfield Village in its beauty. The Historic District Commission does its best to protect these iconic homes, but it takes a village to ensure that is accomplished. Mr. Frisbee's proposal, which you have heard, for a large 24-hour gas station for trucks would further threaten the tranquility of the historic district that is already bombarded with the noise of truck traffic day and night. The town council can and must help to protect our impressive heritage, while the Planning and Zoning Commission has the power to decide on the direction we take by granting the required zone change or not. I fear that without protection, the viability of the northern part of Main Street, closest to the intersection of Sullivan Avenue and Route 5, will lose its attraction as a desirable place to live due to the diminished quality of life. That surely would be tragic. There is good news to report that the preservation of the Schweier House on the corner of Sullivan Avenue and Route 5 has gotten a step closer with the formation of a 501c3 entity and a board to oversee its restoration and use. Descendants of the Schweier family have stepped forward and outlined a detailed proposal for a combined use, quiet facility featuring South Windsor's agricultural history. I hope the new board will also be receptive to making the Schweier House part of the East Windsor Hill Historic District. Thank you. I also want to mention that tonight, and a little bit later in your meeting, you will welcome the new chair of the Historic District Commission, Beth Burgess. And I was thrilled when she accepted being on the commission, but also agreed to be chair. She is highly qualified and has so many qualities that will help lead the commission. She is a curator, I believe, at the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center, and she's just recently been appointed to the State Historic Preservation Council. And that's not only an achievement for her, but it's an achievement for South Windsor to have somebody representing our great historic properties in the state. So Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next speaker is Kim Sirigliano.
Thank you. My name is Kim Sirigliano. I live on Pequannock Avenue, 70 Pequannock Avenue in Windsor, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of myself and my two cousins. My maiden name is Schweier, and yes, I am here also to express our opposition to the gas station proposal for the area located at 59 Sullivan Avenue, also known as the Increased Clap Home and the Schweier home. We are the family that resided in that home, and we are the family that brought so much history to the town of South Windsor. Soon after immigrating from Germany, our grandfather, John Schweier, bought the property in June of 1933. From that point on, he and his three sons, our dads, created John Schweier and Sons, a farm that produced potatoes, sod, and even tobacco for a period of time, hundreds of acres throughout this town, from the meadows to Buckland Hills, from the borders of East Hartford to East Windsor. You could always find a potato or a beautiful lush field of sod anywhere in South Windsor. We own the South Windsor Equipment Company, as well as the property where the Hyundai Mobis buildings currently sit. Placing a gas station between these two buildings and that beautiful old house that we lovingly refer to as Home Lot is appalling for us to consider. It's not a necessity, and we should not forcibly try to make it one. Across the street, between the middle of Rye Street and Sullivan Avenue, there has been a gas station there for years. Not by the same owners, but always a gas station, and it's done well. Within 3 miles up Sullivan Avenue, there were 2 more gas stations. And northbound and southbound on Route 5, you will also find 3 to 4 more gas stations. There's fuel to be had. There's not a lack of fuel. There's no need. Times are changing, and gas stations are no longer small. They are big and bright and loud and open 24 hours. This is acceptable, but at certain times in certain places, and 59 Sullivan Avenue is not that place. This will bring higher volumes of traffic and noise at a steady rate at unacceptable hours, leaving those living in the historic district to endure. More traffic may bring more individuals who may not be there to respectfully admire our cherished homes. It seems to me that the stretch of Sullivan Avenue is fully utilized. How much more are we going to shove in that region? This is the entrance to a historic district, and it should be kept as welcoming, peaceful, and attractive to appeal visitors and the citizens of South Windsor by making that home stand out as a pivotal structure to the historic district. If the decision is to renovate the home, then let's make it purposeful, with style, with class. Let's breathe life and history back into that home by making it a destination place, not for people who need gas, not for the truck driver that needs to park his truck, but for those that love history, appreciate beauty, and to be able to go to a place that feels like home, a place that people really want to be. Our fathers have since long passed, and unfortunately, the 3 of us cousins did not have a say in the selling of our beloved home lot. This is the only thing tangible left of our history and our family. We have great pride for the town of South Windsor, but we have bigger hopes, dreams, and expectations for this land. We are passionate when we ask you, please respect the honor and those that worked so hard to create the history and the beauty of this town by denying this gas station. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Mary Bollier, is that right?
The government's role, my name is Mary Bollier. The government's role is to truthfully, completely inform. Every member of South Windsor has a right with
Mary, can you
complete
keep your-
information
can you keep your
to
mask on?
assess for themselves
Mary,
what
can you
is
keep
right
your
for
mask on
them.
while you're speaking? I'd appreciate it.
No, I can't. It blocks my glasses. The town manager is once again calling the residential numbers, the phone numbers, the landline numbers, and he's feeding the hype.
Mary, I'd like to ask you once again to put
the-
the mask on while you're speaking. That's what we have agreed to here in this room.
Right,
It's a
because
town
I've already
building.
been harassed saying that they're going to end the meeting. This is harassment.
No, we're asking you to.
Well, it's harassment.
We're asking
There's
you for,
you know
we're
the
asking
state
you for
constitution
compliance
says
to these simple
version-
rules to protect everyone in this room. That's all we're asking.
To depend on the government to make us say.
Compliance.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. The meeting's adjourned.